Ethan Carter sent me a message. Chloe's been hospitalized. The wedding's postponed. The makeup artist, who was touching up my foundation, suddenly trembled, her hand slipping and leaving a small dark spot like a mole on my forehead. I kept my face perfectly calm. I picked up my phone and called the man Ethan could never stand, his sworn rival. "The wedding's missing a groom," I said quietly. "Do you want to come?" My father, who had always been strict with me, spoke at that moment with an unusual tone, a mix of relief and comfort. "Sophie, the board of directors has stabilized. The idea of live streaming the wedding really worked. It's far more effective than a press conference. As soon as the broadcast started and they saw this marriage alliance between the Carter and Turner families, those old men on the board immediately shut their mouths." I looked at myself in the mirror. There was a bride staring back, but not a trace of joy or happiness in her eyes. Because right before that call, I had received Ethan's message. "Chloe's been hospitalized. The wedding's postponed." When I saw those words, my heart went hollow. Maybe because there had been too many signs like this before. So when it finally happened, I only felt a cold sense of woof. So this is how it ends. It was as if I had already known this outcome was coming. My best friend Lily was so angry, she was practically shaking. "Postpone the wedding? Is Ethan out of his damn mind? The live stream has already started, and now he says postpone? Just like that?" She stormed around the room, cursing under her breath. When she saw my expressionless face, she suddenly threw her arms around me and burst into tears. "Sophie, that bastard Ethan. He knows exactly how much this wedding means to you. What are you going to do now? What should we do?" The Turner Group's projects had been losing money one after another. Several shareholders had joined forces, trying to push my father out. And the man who had always favored sons over daughters was desperate enough to throw me into a marriage alliance. Ethan Carter, the young master of the Carter family, my childhood sweetheart, the man who just yesterday swore he'd be by my side through it all, now had vanished after sending only a single text. Lily's mascara was running down her cheeks. She wiped her eyes and said, "Sophie, how about I send my brother over to finish the ceremony with you? We can just say it's still an alliance between our two families." I couldn't help but let out a small laugh. Wrapping my arms around her, I said, "Your brother just turned 18, don't ruin his life. But thank you, really. Let me think of something else." I picked up my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd use. "Can you still keep the promise you once made?" I asked. The voice on the other end was low and calm, carrying a trace of lazy indifference. "I can," he said. I bit my lip. "Today's my wedding day. The groom ran away. Can you help me with something?" His voice suddenly sharpened, clearer and steadier now. "Of course I can, but I have one condition." My mind raced, trying to calculate which Turner Group projects or assets I could use in exchange. The man I was speaking to, Nathan Hayes, the heir of the powerful Hayes family, was not someone who did anything for free. His asking price would surely be high, but his answer caught me completely off guard. "After the wedding, bring your ID and come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau." For a moment, I was frozen, unable to respond. His deep, smooth voice now carried a hint of amusement. "Marry me. I don't do fake weddings." For one long second, my mind went completely blank. Wasn't this man known for being disciplined, aloof, and uninterested in women? How did he even know that Ethan and I were only holding a ceremony without officially registering for marriage? Silently, I thought about the enormous fortune of the Hayes family. "Fine," I said finally, "but we'll sign a prenuptial agreement." A low, amused laugh came from the other end of the line. "No prenuptial agreement." I was stunned. The prince of the Hayes family was really playing big. This was all just to spite my enemy, that I would even trade a marriage for it. "Sophie, who are you marrying?" Lily stared at me in disbelief after I hung up the phone, her eyes wide, tears still streaming down her face. I sighed, half helpless, half touched, and held her hand. "Don't look at me like that. Do you really think I'd sell myself that easily?" Lily and I stepped out onto the balcony and looked down at the ceremony below. The place that was supposed to be my wedding with Ethan Carter. Family and friends were slowly taking their seats. The special livestream crew we had hired was still diligently filming, introducing every detail of the event to the viewers. I had once dreamed of an outdoor wedding, witnessed by my loved ones. Ethan had gone to great lengths to find the most beautiful lawn overlooking the city. The wedding gown and his tuxedo were chosen by him. The wedding rings, designed and crafted by his own hands. Even every bouquet on that lawn had been carefully selected by him, down to the exact shade and shape of each flower. He, just like me, had looked forward to this wedding. But no matter how perfectly everything had been prepared, when the most crucial moment came, he still chose to abandon me. My phone kept buzzing with new voice messages. Ethan's voice filled the quiet room, almost shrill against the silence. "Sophie, you've always been understanding. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Chloe was in a car accident. I can't leave her side right now. She refuses to go into surgery if I'm not there. Let's just reschedule the wedding, okay? Be good." I had no idea what was going through Ethan's mind. Just last night, I had reminded him again and again how important today was to me. He'd smiled, kissed me gently, and told me not to worry, that I should focus on being the most beautiful bride. But how could I not worry? Last night, even Chloe had sent me a message. "Guess what? If something happened to me on your wedding day, would Ethan choose to marry you, or stay with me?" I wanted to know the answer too. No, I told myself, this would be the last time I'd gamble everything on him. After all, I had worked with this wedding planning company for over 6 months. They moved faster than I expected. Within 15 minutes, everything connected to the groom had been replaced. Guests at the venue started whispering among themselves. Why did they suddenly change the groom? Did something go wrong with the alliance between the two families? The director of the live stream crew nervously approached me, his eyes filled with concern he couldn't quite hide. "Miss Turner, should we continue the live broadcast?" "Continue," I said. "But don't film anything related to the groom change for now." No sooner had I finished speaking than my phone rang again. On the other end came my father's furious voice. Even without seeing him, I could feel the storm of his anger. "You damn girl, what the hell are you doing now? Did Ethan dump you? The board just told me you switched grooms. What kind of idiotic stunt is that? I told you not to stream the wedding live, but you insisted. Now look, the whole world knows you've been abandoned by Ethan Carter." I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the disappointment rising inside me. "Dad, it wasn't me who broke the promise. It was Ethan." My father's voice grew even harsher. "I don't care. Go beg him if you have to. Get down on your knees if that's what it takes. Tell him to come back and finish the damn wedding right now." Before I could even respond, he hung up. I let out a bitter laugh. Still the same, always the same. The livestream director hesitated for a moment before asking cautiously, "Miss Turner, would you like us to fake a technical malfunction? Say the broadcast equipment failed?" I was taken aback by his thoughtfulness, a bit unaccustomed to it. "Thank you. If I remember correctly, your company's still pretty new, right? Aren't you worried this might hurt your reputation?" He gave a carefree smile. "We're just a small company. Worst case, we start over. But, Miss Turner, your wedding doesn't seem to be going very smoothly." I couldn't help but laugh, a self-deprecating, hollow laugh. No, that wasn't it. Even a stranger like him showed concern, even tried to help. But the people who claimed to love me, what about them? A sudden commotion rose from the lawn. I turned toward the end of the aisle, where a tall figure appeared right on time. My nose stung, my eyes burned slightly. "The groom's here," someone whispered. "Now you can safely keep live streaming." Nathan Hayes strode confidently across the grass. I didn't know if it was my imagination, but under the sunlight, he seemed to be glowing, as if wrapped in a halo of golden light. "The one marrying Sophie Turner is me," his deep voice carried through the air. Both the Hayes and Turner families hope to receive everyone's sincere blessings. The commanding aura of the Hayes family's heir was no joke. His sharp gaze swept across the entire venue, and the noisy crowd immediately fell silent. 20 minutes later, the wedding music began. I took a deep breath and slowly stepped onto the aisle. The sun was brilliant, everything seemed radiant. I walked forward, one step at a time, my eyes gliding over familiar faces. To my surprise, Mr. Hayes Sr., Nathan's grandfather, was also there. When I lifted my head, I saw not only him, but also Nathan's parents and younger sister. The entire Hayes family had come. Finally, my gaze stopped at the man standing in the center of the lawn. Nathan was wearing a perfectly tailored black suit. His tall figure was elegant, his eyes deep and unreadable, and the faint smile on his lips was gentle but confident. When I reached him, I looked straight into his eyes. There was something in them, something deep, complicated, and beyond my understanding. Standing next to him, I suddenly felt small and fragile, my heart tightening for no reason. "Thank you, Nathan," I whispered. He squeezed my hand lightly, the corners of his lips curving upward. "It's an honor," he said softly. When it came time to exchange rings, I hesitated. The ring wasn't the one Ethan had painstakingly designed. This one was simpler in design, yet it exuded elegance. The diamond was significantly larger, several grades above what I had expected. I couldn't help but think, wow. The Hayes family really is in a league of its own. Even a last-minute wedding ring looks this extravagant. The ring fit my finger perfectly, not a bit too loose or too tight. I froze for a moment, realizing it was as if it had been made just for me. "The groom may now kiss the bride," the officiant announced. I went still. Nathan Hayes, the man I'd always known as the flawless golden boy, rich, brilliant, the type of man every parent adored. And now, that same man's handsome face was drawing closer and closer to mine. My heartbeat spun out of control. I didn't even know whose heart was pounding harder, his or mine. Nathan seemed to smile faintly. "Close your eyes, Sophie." Under the gaze of everyone present, I slowly closed my eyes. His lips brushed against mine, soft, gentle, and unexpectedly tender. His hand tightened around mine, and to my surprise, he leaned in again, one more time. The crowd erupted into cheers and blessings, their voices swirling around me. I opened my eyes to see that Nathan's ears had turned red. He glanced at the noisy guests, his lips curving into a playful grin. "She's my wife," he said, his tone teasing. "You really think I'll let you all keep staring?" My cheeks burned. Embarrassment and confusion tangled together. I couldn't bring myself to meet his eyes. Only one thought remained in my head. For someone who always seemed so composed, how can his lips be that soft? When we stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I still couldn't quite believe it. Was that it? Did we really just get married? Back in the car, Nathan held the marriage certificate in his hands. Nathan kept flipping through the little red marriage booklet, staring at it as if he couldn't get enough. The corners of his lips still held that faint, content smile. I sat beside him, uneasy and unsure what to say. "Mr. Hayes." He finally tore his gaze away from the marriage certificate, cleared his throat softly, and said, "We're legally married now. You can change how you address me." I hesitated, about to say something, when the sound of a car horn cut through the moment. A black sedan with a familiar license plate pulled up beside us. Ethan Carter stepped out, knocked sharply on the window. Nathan's face darkened immediately as he lowered the glass. Ethan narrowed his eyes, his tone dripping with mockery. Well, what wind blew the great Prince Hayes here? Didn't expect to run into you." Without thinking, I acted purely on instinct. I leaned into Nathan's chest, seeking shelter. Ethan's gaze locked on me, his lips curving into a sly, knowing smirk. "Ha, Prince Hayes really is a lucky man. Your little girlfriend seems very enthusiastic." Nathan froze for just a moment, then looked down at me, the girl curled up in his arms, like a frightened chick. Gently, he patted my head before turning back to Ethan, his expression calm and composed again. "Let me introduce her properly," he said coolly. "This is my wife. We're legally married." Ethan's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "You're married? Since when? How did I not know about this?" He didn't even wait for an answer before giving a low laugh. "Today was supposed to be my wedding day with Sophie, actually. There was just a little accident. I was on my way to apologize to her." Nathan gave a faint, ironic smile and ran his hand through my hair, as if comforting me. I leaned against him, feeling the quiet steadiness of his body, and for the first time that day, I felt a strange, unexpected peace. Ethan's tone suddenly shifted, hesitant now. "Mr. Hayes, why does your wife look kind of familiar? Aren't you going to introduce her to me properly?" I stiffened, about to raise my head, but before I could, Ethan's phone rang. His face changed instantly. "What, Chloe's awake? All right, I'm coming back right now." He gave a quick, distracted farewell, then rushed off. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. "See, that's all he is. Add me on WeChat, honey." Nathan said casually, holding out his phone with a QR code displayed on the screen. His words shattered my brief moment of composure. My heart skipped a beat as I fumbled through my bag for my phone. But just as I pulled it out, the screen went black. "It's dead," I muttered. "Sorry, Mr. Hayes, my phone's out of battery." Nathan chuckled, his tone teasing. "Funny, that sounds like an excuse to reject me." I blinked, flustered. "We just got our marriage certificate. You're already worried about being single again?" He tilted his head toward me, smiling faintly, but then his expression softened. Without another joke, he took my hand. "Come on, let's go see our house." "What?" I blinked in confusion. "Our house?" "Mr. Hayes," I said cautiously, "forgive me for asking, but now that we're legally married, what exactly do you need me for? Just to keep up appearances, or is there another reason?" Nathan was quiet for a moment. The tips of his ears turned slightly red before he finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "Sophie, this might sound sudden, but I don't want to hide it. I actually feel lucky. Lucky that you called me that day, and grateful you gave me this chance." He looked straight into my eyes. "The chance to pursue you as your husband." I froze, completely caught off guard by his honesty. My heart stuttered. I hadn't been ready for this. I wanted to respond, but I didn't know how or where to begin. A man like him, wealthy, brilliant, and so breathtakingly handsome, saying he wanted to pursue me. This man who had just registered his marriage to me. This man who could solve all the problems I was facing with a single word. No matter how I looked at it, it felt like something out of a fairy tale, like Cinderella's impossible ending come to life. I thought for a while before finally finding my voice. "Mr. Hayes, do you really understand my situation? After all, you helped me first. But honestly, I don't have anything I can offer you in return." Nathan smiled gently. Nathan's eyes shimmered with something that looked like starlight. The heir of the Hayes family truly lived up to his reputation. "I know everything about you," he said softly. "Maybe even more than you think I do. It's late. This place is closer. Stay here tonight, and I'll take you home tomorrow, okay?" I quietly followed him out of the car. As always, Nathan handled everything with precision and care. The house he brought me to was unexpectedly comfortable, more so than my own home. The design, the layout, even the skincare products and the food stocked in the kitchen all matched my preferences almost perfectly. It was uncanny, like someone had studied every detail about me. When my phone finally finished charging, a flood of messages and missed calls came pouring in. The ringtone blared again. I glanced at the screen, hesitated, then decided to pick up. "My good daughter," came my father's voice, too casual, too familiar. "Since when did you and Mr. Hayes get so close? Why didn't you tell me? Ask him if the development project in East District could let Turner Corporation join in as an investor." Nathan noticed my face darken and gestured for me to turn on the speaker. His voice was calm, steady. "Besides, Mr. Turner, this is Nathan Hayes speaking. Sophie's tired and needs to rest. You can discuss business with me." On the other end, my father's tone changed instantly, greasy and flattering, a tone I had never once heard from him before. Of course. Mr. Hayes, when you have time, please bring Sophie home for dinner. Yes, we'd be honored." Before I could react, my phone started ringing again. On the screen, the name Ethan Carter flashed repeatedly. I suddenly felt an overwhelming wave of exhaustion. Nathan didn't hesitate. He reached out, ended the call, and without a word, lifted me into his arms and carried me to the sofa. "Rest, Sophie," he said quietly. "Nothing is more important than your health. Get a good night's sleep. I'll be right here." His embrace was unexpectedly warm. His hand gently patted my back, slow and steady, and before I knew it, tears slipped down my cheeks. That night, my sleep was unusually deep. When I woke up, I found myself still wrapped in Nathan's arms. I shifted slightly, and he stirred, half asleep, instinctively patting my back again. I looked at his face, peaceful, composed, and for some reason, it felt oddly familiar. He opened his eyes. When he saw me awake, he leaned in and kissed me lightly. "Good morning, my wife," he murmured, then promptly closed his eyes again as if nothing happened. His movements were so natural, so practiced, I didn't even have time to react. Then came his sleepy mumble. "You look so real today, so cute, so easy to kiss, but why is my arm so numb?" I couldn't help laughing. Nathan turned toward me, froze for a second, then said awkwardly, "Good morning, Maybe it was because of that restful sleep, but I felt much better. Meeting his eyes, I smiled softly. "Good morning, my husband." His gaze lit up instantly, like an entire galaxy bursting into light. The smile tugging at his lips couldn't be hidden, and his ears turned bright red. Meeting the Hayes family went better than I ever imagined. Everyone was warm and welcoming, especially Mr. Hayes Sr. He laughed heartily as he patted Nathan on the shoulder and joked with me. "This rascal never even remembers to feed his pets. Don't you despise him for it, dear?" It was hard to believe that this was the same man who once terrified all of Crestfall City with his temper. Thinking back to Ethan's parents, their arrogance, the way they looked down on me with undisguised disdain, it all felt like something that belonged to a lifetime long past. As we were leaving the Hayes estate, Nathan held my hand as we walked around the garden. But then, out of nowhere, Ethan Carter appeared, panting, disheveled, as if he had run all the way there. When Ethan saw Nathan and me walking hand in hand, his eyes immediately turned red. "Sophie," he snapped, voice trembling with fury, "Nathan Hayes is already married. How could you have no self-respect? You'd rather be his mistress than wait for me. I told you the wedding that day was just an accident. I'll make it up to you, I swear." Nathan's gaze turned icy. He pulled me behind him, standing protectively between Ethan and me. "If you have something to say it to me," he said coldly. "Don't take it out on my wife. Acting like this is beneath a man." Ethan froze, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "Your wife? Are you joking? Sophie as your wife? She's my childhood sweetheart. She's always wanted to marry me." His bloodshot eyes widened, his voice shaking. "Sophie, tell him the truth, that you were supposed to marry me, right?" He looked at me pleadingly, as if my answer was the only thing holding him together. I stepped forward and took Nathan's hand. "We're already legally married," I said calmly. "I, Sophie Turner, am the lawful wife of Nathan Hayes, recognized by the law and approved by both our families." Ethan's face drained of color. His voice trembled. "So, that day you didn't cancel the wedding? You actually held it at the venue I prepared, but married Nathan Hayes instead?" He blinked rapidly, his voice cracking. "The woman I saw in Nathan's car that day. That really was you, wasn't it? Sophie, how could you do this? How could you treat me this way?" Seeing his confused, broken expression, I couldn't help but laugh, a sharp, bitter laugh that stung my own throat. "You really don't know why I did it? The Turner Group was on the verge of bankruptcy. I needed a marriage alliance to keep my position on the board. You didn't know that?" I said, my voice rising. "If I hadn't married you, my father would have sold me off to Mr. Wilson, a man over 60, in exchange for funding. You didn't know that either?" My laugh turned into tears. The wedding was being live-streamed. It couldn't be postponed. "You didn't know that, Ethan?" I laughed so hard, the tears streamed down my face. Nathan's expression softened. He gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. Ethan stared at me blankly, his voice hoarse. I knew all of that." "Then why are you still asking me why?" I said quietly, my voice trembling. "If you had cared just a little, you would have known that on that very day I married Nathan Hayes." Ethan's lips trembled. His face looked almost gray. I thought. His voice faltered. He stood there in shock, mumbling as though talking to himself. "That day, Chloe had an accident. I thought it would be the last time. I just wanted to help her. She's been there for my family for years. I couldn't ignore that. I thought after her surgery I'd come back to you, apologize, and hold another wedding, a perfect one just for you." Looking at his dazed, broken expression, I decided to say everything I had held back. "Ethan, not one person from your family showed up on our wedding day. Chloe messaged me the night before. She knew she'd be in that accident. It was as if everyone already knew we'd never have a wedding. Everyone but me. I didn't care anymore about the man who could barely stand in front of me. I tightened my hold on Nathan's hand and left the Hayes estate with him. Back at home, the moment the door closed, I could no longer hold it in. My voice broke. "Nathan, am I useless? My mother's sick, and I can't do anything. I just watched as the other woman brought her child into our house. The man I grew up trusting betrayed me when it mattered most. I tried so hard, worked, matured, fought for everything, and in the end, I was still just a bargaining chip for my father." Nathan gently pulled me into his arms and held me tightly. His voice was soft, steady, and warm against my hair. Sophie, you've done enough. You've already done so well. He paused, his tone turning firm but tender. There's a saying, fire tests gold and adversity tests strength. It might sound old, but right now, it fits you perfectly. Everything you've been through, Nathan said softly, his voice calm and sure, will one day become your light, your own strength. I've reviewed every project you've worked on. Every time, you've grown, you've improved, haven't you? You've been trying to step out of the Turner Corporation's shadow, to find your own path. You've done an incredible job, Sophie. His tone was slow but steady as he held me close, speaking quietly for a long time. Under the warmth of his embrace, I gradually began to calm down. He was right. The people who are gone can't come back, and what's happened can't be changed. All I could do now was stay focused on my goals and keep moving forward. Nathan must have sensed the shift in my mood. He looked into my eyes, serious and gentle all at once. Sophie, he said, I have a selfish wish. I hope you'll lean on me a little more. But no matter what you want to do, just remember, I'll always be right beside you. Before I could respond, he suddenly stood up, startling me. A moment later he returned, this time kneeling on one knee in front of me, with a stack of documents in his hands. Sophie, he began, his voice deep with emotion, I've imagined this moment countless times, the moment I'd proposed to you. But I never dared to dream you'd actually say yes. Maybe it's fate, giving me this chance to stand beside you. This is a property transfer agreement. I'm transferring all assets under my name to you, voluntarily, without any conditions. Will you marry me truly? Will you share your life, your future, with me? I opened the folder. Just the list of assets was thick enough to fill a book. The Hayes fortune was staggering, vast beyond imagination. The title of the heir to the Hayes family was no exaggeration at all. I was deeply moved, but I closed the document and looked up at him. Why? I asked. Under his steady voice, fragments of memories long buried slowly resurfaced in my mind. When my mother was still alive, she worried about me constantly. Even the smallest sign of discomfort, and she'd rush me to the hospital. One time we accidentally entered the wrong ward. I walked into the private room across the hall. It was spacious and luxurious. Lying in the bed was a boy with a face so beautiful he looked almost unreal. His skin was pale, delicate, almost translucent. He was so stunning that I couldn't resist. When I saw him sleeping, I quietly leaned forward and kissed him. But more importantly, his room was filled with delicious snacks and all kinds of fun toys. From that day on, I started pestering my mom, begging to visit the hospital again and again. We ate together, played together, and day by day, the color returned to his once pale cheeks. We even made a pinky promise that when we grew up, we'd still be friends. But when I turned 9, my mother suddenly fell ill. Her condition worsened so quickly that I barely had time to understand what was happening. Not long after, my father remarried and brought home a stepson nearly my age. From that day forward, no one ever took me back to that hospital. Nathan hesitated for a moment, then said quietly, After that, I went looking for you. But by then, Ethan was already by your side. I regretted missing my chance, but I couldn't let go either. So I kept watching over you from a distance. I blinked, my mind slow to catch up. Wait, so that night at the banquet when you saved me after someone drugged my drink, that wasn't a coincidence, was it? Nathan chuckled, a soft, honest sound. Not exactly. I didn't plan to bother you again, but maybe fate took pity on me, gave me another chance to get close. That's why I said you could name any condition, and I'd agree to it. He paused, smiling faintly. At that moment, I told myself if you didn't use that chance, I'd respect your boundaries forever. I wouldn't disturb you again. He looked at me, his gaze full of quiet resolve. But if you did use it, I wouldn't hesitate, Nathan said, his voice low and steady. If you gave me that chance, I'd chase you until the very end. I looked up at him. His gaze was deep, dark, almost like it held a silent whirlpool that could pull me in completely. How could anyone possibly resist that kind of quiet, unconditional devotion? I rose on my toes and pressed a gentle kiss to his eyelids. I do, I whispered. But that simple I do came with a very high price, one I hadn't expected at all. He wasn't supposed to be like this. Wasn't he the disciplined, self-controlled man with no interest in women? That was what all the rumors said. Lies, every single one of them. I thought rather indignantly, I'm going to break my back at this rate. From that night on, our relationship progressed at lightning speed. It was dizzying, almost unreal. Until one day, Lily asked cautiously, Sophie, have you talked to Ethan lately? I froze for a second, then shook my head. No, I blocked and deleted him ages ago. Why? Lily let out a sigh of relief. Good, he hasn't been doing well. After the day he saw you, he went home and got really sick, had a high fever for days before it broke. Chloe stayed at the hospital to take care of him, but when he finally woke up, the two of them had a huge fight. Ethan accused her of having bad intentions, and she said he knew exactly what he was doing, but did it anyway. Then he started arguing with his parents, saying they'd deceived him under the guise of gratitude to the Hearts. Ever since, he's been unstable. She lowered her voice. He's been posting old photos and videos of you two on social media, all your memories together. At first, friends tried to talk him down, but now everyone's given up. It's like he's trapped in the past, punishing himself. Ever since I married Nathan, even my father's tone toward me had changed. I'd been upgraded from that ungrateful brat to my precious daughter. He called every few days now, pretending to check in on me, speaking with the warmth of a man who'd never once hurt me. I never argued, I just listened quietly, letting him perform his little play. I used to think Turner Corporation was a giant tree, unshakable. I thought the road to avenging my mother was full of thorns and endless struggle, but now I realized how naive I had been. Back then, I was just a frog in a well, blind to the vast sky above me. Nathan introduced me to top mentors in every field: finance, management, design, negotiation. With his support, I absorbed knowledge like a sponge soaking in water. One day, while I was buried in work, reviewing a complex corporate merger proposal, my father called again. My sweet daughter, he began, his tone fake and familiar. I heard Mr. Hayes has his eyes on that plot of land in the West District. Can you ask if it's true? I glanced over at Nathan, who was reading through some documents beside me. I think he mentioned it, I said, then hung up. A moment later, Nathan looked up, serious. Wife, he said, what do you think of Turner Corporation? His expression told me he was hiding something. I narrowed my eyes in warning. I want to handle it myself. Don't interfere. He rubbed his nose sheepishly. What if I told you that news about the West District already leaked? I smiled sweetly. I'm not mad as long as you move into the guest room for a month. Wife, I was wrong, he said quickly, bowing his head in surrender. And before I could react, he scooped me up into his arms and carried me straight into the master bedroom. As expected, when the West District property went up for public auction, Turner Corporation was among the bidders. They offered $20 billion first. I countered with 25. Then I kept raising the price little by little, pushing them to their absolute limit. The final number stopped at $85 billion. I didn't bid again. I let Turner Corporation win. Moments later, my father called, voice brimming with excitement. My clever girl, you really know how to whisper into the right ears, don't you? The Hayes Group has never lost a project in real estate development, but they willingly let us have that land. Everyone's impressed. I smiled faintly. As long as you're happy, Dad. Nathan was right. Family empires like Turner Corporation, success built them, and now it was the very thing destroying them. When my mother and father founded Turner Corporation, the key executives had seized the opportunity and helped the company rise to its peak. But once the person at the top grows reckless, even massive cash flow can turn into a fatal blade against the corporation itself. The next day, every financial newspaper headline screamed, Turner Corporation spends $85 billion to win the coveted West District land in Crest Falls City. I stared at the interview photo, my father and his stepson grinning brightly for the cameras, full of confidence and pride. I couldn't help turning to Nathan, frowning. How can a man his age still believe that pies fall from the sky? Nathan pretended to think seriously before replying with a straight face. Maybe because my wife baked him one big enough to dream about. Or maybe President Turner is just too greedy for his own good. I shot him a glare and, without hesitation, blocked my father's number. Later that morning, Lily's call jolted me awake. I had fallen asleep still reading about bankruptcy and corporate liquidation law. Her voice was panicked. Sophie, how can you still be sleeping? That bastard is smearing you everywhere. I rubbed my temples, opened my messages, and saw that she'd sent me dozens of links. Every headline told the same story. My beloved father had gone to the media, tearfully claiming that he had raised me alone, only for me to repay him with betrayal after marriage. According to him, I had been blinded by love, conspiring with the Hayes Group to deceive Turner Corporation, leading it into a massive financial loss. The comments below were brutal, the internet at its finest. She's lost her mind over a man betraying her own family for love? Pathetic. Disgusting. Leeching off others and calling it romance. Wasn't she the heiress who live-streamed her wedding? Gotta admit, though, she's gorgeous. I lay in bed, scrolling through each one. Some were so absurd that I burst out laughing until my shoulders shook. Suddenly, Nathan stormed into the bedroom and wrapped his arms tightly around me from behind. I jumped. Hadn't he already gone to the office? His grip was firm but trembling slightly. He gently took my phone away. "Wife?" he murmured, his voice low and careful. "Stop crying. I've already taken care of it, okay?" I blinked in surprise, then couldn't help smiling. I turned around to face him, batting my lashes innocently. If I caused the mess, I should be the one to clean it up. I decided to use my father's own tactics against him. I reached out to a few major media outlets and reliable livestream platforms. Within hours, I had arranged a live broadcast and publicly announced it in advance. But I didn't expect it to blow up this much. The moment the livestream started, the viewer count skyrocketed, over 1 million people within minutes. I laid out every piece of evidence I'd meticulously prepared, one after another, before the entire audience. First piece of evidence, my birth certificate and my half-brothers. The difference between our birth dates was barely 2 months. Second, my mother's medical records, from the day she fell ill to the day she died. There were too many suspicious inconsistencies. Third, a detailed record of every project I had led at Turner Corporation. They used to call me Sophie the Fearless for a reason. The most profitable sectors of the company, I had built them with my own hands. Fourth, all the data related to the West District property Turner Corporation had just acquired. That land once held a research laboratory. Due to an accident during experimentation, the soil had been severely contaminated, completely unsuitable for redevelopment. Yet, Turner Corporation still intended to develop the land into a residential area. I even attached the link to the project's official promotional website, the one they'd proudly announced to the public. At first, the viewers were just casual onlookers, eager to gossip about the drama of the rich. The comments were full of jokes, snide remarks, and memes. Some people started digging into the background of my father's illegitimate son. Others threw around sarcasm for fun. But when I presented the fourth piece of evidence, the live stream exploded. Turner Corporation actually did something this unethical? That land is heavily contaminated and they still plan to build homes there? Heartless business bastards. Boycott Turner Corporation starting today. The chat flooded with outrage. I ended the live stream. The evidence was enough. My dear father, I thought with a bitter smile, your days of freedom are probably numbered. If he wanted to manipulate public opinion, he should have been prepared to be devoured by it. The documents I released caused a massive uproar. One by one, Turner Corporation's partner companies publicly announced the termination of their contracts. Law enforcement quickly opened an official investigation. My father tried everything to contact me, changing phone numbers, calling mutual acquaintances, even reaching out through intermediaries, but I didn't answer a single message. Nathan made sure I was completely protected. At a charity gala a few days later, I was unexpectedly stopped by someone. It was Chloe Hart. She looked me up and down, her lips curling into a cold smile. "Ha, you really are lucky, aren't you?" I frowned, confused, not sure what she wanted, but it soon became clear that she wasn't here to start a fight, she just needed someone to talk to. We stepped out onto the balcony, and what she told me changed everything I thought I knew. She and Ethan Carter had registered their marriage long ago. She had loved him long before I ever did. Because of the deep ties between the Hart and Carter families, the Carter patriarch had personally arranged their union. Ethan had never wanted to make it public, but Chloe had quietly accepted it. What none of them expected was that Ethan truly fell in love with me. He wanted to marry me, so much that he even asked for a divorce from her. That was when Chloe broke down completely. The accident she had that day, the one that sent her to the hospital, she had staged it herself. At that moment, everything made sense. I finally understood why Ethan's parents had always treated me with disdain, why they had never tried to hide their contempt. I finally understood why Ethan could plan a wedding with me, but always postponed the marriage registration. All this time, I thought Chloe was the other woman, the one who had destroyed my relationship, but no. It turned out I was the one who stepped into their marriage. Ethan had always said he loved me, but in the end, he made me into the very thing I despised most, a woman who ruined someone else's home. Suddenly, I missed Nathan, deeply, desperately. The kind of longing that burned in my chest. I left the ballroom immediately and called him. "Honey, come pick me up. Bad party?" His voice was calm, teasing. "It's not that," I said softly. "I just miss you." There was a pause, then his gentle laugh came through the phone. "I'm on my way right now." "Honey," I whispered, smiling through the ache in my chest, "I love you." "I love you too," he replied. "My wife." How important do you think self-respect is in a relationship? Love and Lies story.